Potting soil can cost a fortune, can't it? When you've got raised beds to fill and plants to repot, it sure does add up.
Well, there are some nifty tricks you can do to keep the cost down that we'll show you in this video. The first thing to say is that you shouldn't really be buying ready-made mixes. These are so expensive compared to if you just make your own, and making your own really isn't that hard. You don't need a whole array of ingredients. In fact, we just use 2 and our plants love it. The first is good quality compost. If you can make your own, then great, the savings will multiply even more. But if not, just grab a few bags of those all-purpose compost from your local garden centre. It will be packed with all the beneficial microbes your plants need to thrive. We like to buy 1 tonne bulk bags because the bigger you buy, the bigger the savings. But even smaller bags of compost as a base will be much cheaper than pre-made potting mixes. Now, compost is too dense on its own, especially in containers. The enemy of plants in pots is overwatering, so we need a mix that drains well. Therefore, we need to add some perlite. We like a ratio of approximately 5 parts compost to 2 parts perlite. Again, we like to buy large 100-litre bags from Amazon that works out so much cheaper than buying those small grow shop bags in the garden centre. Combine everything together and you've got a cheap mix that your plants will love. No compromise.
Now we've got an awesome tip for repotting large containers with less soil in a bit, but first we can make our potting soil even cheaper with another little hack. When we were just starting out gardening, we were in the habit of discarding the old soil when we repotted a plant, and this was a massive waste. You might think that soil that has been sitting in a pot for a couple of years has lost all its nutrients and should be thrown out. And this is true to a degree. The nutrients in compost does deplete when left in pots. That's why we should fertilise regularly. But it doesn't take much to bring it back to life and use it to bulk out our homemade potting mix. All you do is simply sieve the old soil into a container to remove anything sinister like grubs and slugs, as well as any diseased stems and whatnot, and use that as a base for the soil mix that we showed you earlier. So instead of 5 parts compost, you can use 2 parts old potting soil, 3 parts fresh compost and 2 parts perlite. The fresh compost is important to breathe new life into the old soil. It's a nifty way to bulk out your potting soil with stuff that you might otherwise chuck out. Now, if you are worried about the level of nutrients in this refreshed mix, then you could always repot your plant by using this mix for the bottom half and then topping up with fresh compost.
Now for that repotting tip that we promised earlier. Let's say you've got some shallow rooted plants, like these strawberry plants, that you want to combine into a larger planter, like this one. We like to pot these up into large containers to stop their tendrils trying to infiltrate neighbouring plants. And well, filling a pot like this one would cost a fortune, wouldn't it? The solution is simple. Grab a plastic pot that's roughly half the size of the large pot, and then turn it upside down into the pot. You can now fill around the upturned pot with soil. Now we're going to pop the plants in and then backfill around. You've just saved yourself a ton of space, but that's not the only benefit. Having a container chock full of soil could potentially be bad for the roots of these plants. The more soil there is, the easier it is to become waterlogged, which is never a good thing for the roots. Plus, moving this container around your garden is much easier. It's much lighter.
Now, This next tip does require you to be brave, but it will save you time and money. It's something that I've already done to this bay tree twice already. I'm going to do so again now. So I've just spent about 10 minutes trying to get him out of this pot because he was jammed in there. But you can see that the boy is pretty root bound. All these roots circling around the pot and at the bottom of the pot means that he's not able to hold on to moisture and nutrients as well as he would like to. Now the normal solution, of course, is to grab a pot that is a few sizes bigger than this one and repot using some fresh soil. An alternative way though is to pop him on his side like so, grab a sharp knife, I've got just a bread knife from the kitchen, and prune off about a third of the root ball. So you could do a third off the bottom, and you can also go around the sides. Now, don't be too alarmed. Plants can handle root pruning just as much as they can handle a trim to their stems. In fact, in lots of cases, this actually benefits the plant. It removes kind of older roots that aren't serving the plant as well anymore and encourages the plant to grow nice fresh roots. So now that we have made the cuts, all we do now is to pop it back into the existing pot. So I'm going to put a base layer of soil, and then backfill around. So there you go, you've not had to do a massive repot using a ton of fresh soil.
So like we mentioned earlier, the soil in containers can become tired and lifeless over the years. This is why regular fertilising is so important. But in truth, this is more like papering over the cracks rather than solving the problem. You're still working with soil that is lifeless, and if you forget to fertilise, your plant is in trouble. This is why we like to top dress all of our potted plants with fresh compost at the beginning of the season. Soil takes a battering over a winter, and a good top dress really does bring in some new life for the season ahead. Simply remove the top quarter of soil and replace with fresh compost. This will then feed the soil below and the roots will be happy.
Do you have lots of raised beds like us? And do you notice how lifeless and depleted the soil looks when you get to the end of winter and you're ready to start up again for the new season? If this is the case, then I'm willing to bet you that you left the soil bare over winter. It's a common mistake and something that we used to do every year. The expensive solution is to top up the beds with extra potting soil in spring before planting in your veggies and whatnot. But there is something else you can do to help protect the soil and stop so much erosion, and that is to plant a cover crop. A cover crop is a simple placeholder for your garden. When you've got nothing to plant but you don't want to ruin your soil, a cover crop is the ideal solution. They're dead easy to grow, germinate in a week and feed and protect the soil over the harsh winter months. We chose to plant white mustard here in this bed because it kind of fits in with our no-dig approach. It'll grow a few inches and then die off during a frost, and the foliage will sit there protecting the soil. Now we made a detailed video all about this that you can watch by clicking on the video on the screen, so don't miss out.